Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, to the Jesus Tune-Up channel. We're being tuned up. Jesus is turning us from sideways to right side up because we called to him and he answered, even when we didn't want to hear sometimes. In the light of infinite being, we see there's only this light, infinite light. And we thank that part of ourselves that remembers, that could never forget what's always true, infinite light. That infinite happiness is always available to us. The unchanging, unmoving reality of infinite light. So we focus on the light, and this is so beautiful to have the direct experience that what he says in the Course is true, and be reminded through our willingness. In lesson 179, that God is but love, and therefore so am I. Marinate as infinite happiness. Marinate is mystery, like we're always seems to be looking for something to know or something to learn about. It's really that unknowing. The knowing and unknowing at the same time at the divine light. And let it teach us, let it teach us of itself. That song, the song of the light. The song of joy, the song of happiness. We're just so much more familiar with the song of what isn't. Rather than the celebration of what is. So as you look deeply with Jesus, with this just as divine beings that we are, divine light, pure, the quantum field itself. I love that, the quantum field. Beyond the observer, actually, the one that observes what's happening. To look at, there is one life, lesson 160 review, 167, there is one life, and that I share with God. The only life is the light of divine being. We ask that. Light, does the divine being light, infinite light, have any questions about what life is? This gets more. Does it ask, who am I? Is it on a search for itself? I wonder where I am. This is such a great way to see the contrast. It really is. Start with the light. Okay. There is one life, and that I share with God. Is the light searching for God, actually? It's on a mission to find itself. Can we find a mission in there somewhere? It's looking. Does it look for happiness? Is it on a search to find happiness? Does it try and prove that it exists at all? Does it have anything to prove to be what it is? Does it doubt its existence, actually? These are all beliefs of the ego. Does it doubt its existence, infinite light? It just is. It just is. It doesn't have a question about what. Does it ask Jesus, Jesus, when am I going to wake up? Doesn't ask any of those questions, no. This is how we know there's something outside this world. Because it's always here. We know it's here. As much as we want to pretend it's not. Oh. There are not different kinds of life. For life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. Does infinite light have any degrees in it? They have a single degree. Does it have an on and off switch? No turning the light off. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Eternal life. Does it think about death at all, actually, in the light? Does it think about death? When am I going to die? Does it think about, okay, when's something bad going to happen? Does it look at problems? Let me see if I can find a problem. Does the light know what a problem is? Not anything about that. And yet all day long, somehow, arising within consciousness of the dreamer is the search for salvation in a problem. I can prove I exist. How do you prove I can exist by having a problem? Through salvation, that a salvation isn't a problem. Is the ego the desire to prove that it exists through a problem in the light of divine being? They see with the divine light. And see the simplicity. How simple is it to have a conversation with divine light? It's so simple. It always answers. And it always answers the question, is this an expression of divine being? When seemingly some idea arises in form that the little body puppet, we see how powerful we are. We can ask the light that and see, is this divine expression? And it'll say no. We know. That part of us knows. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. His thoughts. Does the light of divine being have an opposite? In our direct experience, can it find that opposite? Does it search for an opposite? Does it try and prove that there's an opposite? Does it have anything other than thoughts of God? Is it go around picking for a fight, trying to fight with something, trying to find an opponent? There's no death because what God created shares his light. We can ask the light this: is the light synonymous with God? How can we know that we're synonymous with God unless we're synonymous with God? And this is what we're saying, the ego saying to the light: prove to me you exist. I want proof that the light exists. How can the light be proved? By this world. We can't prove the light, can we? We can only be the light. That's all there is. Because opposite to God does not exist. Just like there's no opposite to this light. Does this light have an opposite? There's no death because the Father and the Son are one. The ego has a plan. Oh, does the light have a plan? Does it plan anything? It's not in their plan. It's planning its next move. Can we find that? Does it know anything? Does it know anything at all, really? No objective experience. There's no death because the Father and the Son is one. Is there any death in the divine light of being? I find it somewhere. We can go shopping. We could go hunting as much as we want. Can we find? We know the truth. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. Is there an opposite to divine light? Yet in the world of play, in the play of consciousness, in that habit of playing like there is, playing the opposite, opponent, the opponent to ourselves. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Is there a death an opposite? Is death actually an opposite to light? There's a belief that there's an opponent to life, which is death. Yet in the light of divine being, is death the opposite to life? You can see that it isn't. We have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. My favorite, supreme happiness. Our favorite topic, supreme happiness. Let's just see. In the light of divine being, in infinite nature that we are, is there anything other than supreme happiness? Have the light answer that. Wait a minute, there is such an idea that it was something else. We can ask the light directly in here, is there anything other than supreme happiness? And hear the no. By direct experience. It is the alarm, death, being the alarm to which you give response of any kind, that is not perfect joy. Any kind. Jesus just uses words that just cut everything off except light. You give response. It is not perfect joy. Is a denial of this infinite light. All sorrow, loss, anxiety, and suffering and pain, even a little sigh of one little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort or merest frown. Acknowledge death. So let's go through those and see if there's any little residual denials hanging out. See if Jesus will bring those into awareness. We're willing to look, Jesus. Show us. That's good. Okay. Of any kind that is not perfect joy. And the light of divine being is the only response joy. You can almost feel that no want to come out first. And then you really listen deep, you can hear no. In the light of divine being, it's their inner response. We feel the infinite love in that when it says no response. Infinite, perfect joy. Okay. All sorrow. Let's put any denial through sorrow in the light of divinity. We're going to put it all in, every twig and twitch. Okay. Any desire for experience of loss in the divine infinite light. Jesus, will you show that to us? Put that in supreme happiness. It's like where supreme abject happiness meets the idea of loss. The desire for anxiety, the desired experience for anxiety meets infinite supreme happiness. See how those come together. The memory of supreme happiness, the knowing of it direct. And suffering and pain, the desire for suffering. Jesus, show me any desire. He said the smallest twig is the desire for suffering. He said it may seem like a momentary twig, but it's a big twig. Don't let any twig hide below the level of awareness. For supreme happiness, any pain twigs, let's see them. The tiniest twinge. Put that in supreme happiness. Even a little sigh of weariness. I'm willing to look at that sigh. I can see how those things get kind of excused. Oh, you know, that's just what's happening in consciousness. No, that's what's desired in consciousness, to deny divinity. Yeah, Jesus is saying, he's very clear on that. That's not just what's happening. That's what's desired. To deny perfect and supreme happiness. Infinite happiness. Or any other size of weariness. And like these little complaints, any little complaints under there. But why, Jesus? See. It's like begging Jesus not to tell us that we're really nothing. Because as soon as we're something, it's immediate pain. The twigs are the sign that we're trying to be a thing, an object. Is the light a thing? Is the light an object? So if the light, divine being, if what's here is not an object, how can it be acted on by other objects? Is the light acted on by other objects? So how can there be objective experience if what's here is only light? A slight discomfort. Jesus, are there any slight discomforts? Please point those out to me. How much joy comes for asking? or infinite. The asking is the receiving, actually. That's where asking only for supreme happiness. Everything else falls off the list. Supreme happiness. That's it. Meditation on supreme happiness today. A slight discomfort, any slight discomforts in recognition. That's a desire held below in the subconscious mind. We're willing to see it. The merest frown. It's like in kindergarten, they know, turn that frown upside down. That's what the whole course is. It's turning that frown upside down. Jesus is their smileless frown about anything. I'm willing to see it. Anything other than infinite, unchanging joy. Suffering and pain, a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort, or the merest frown, acknowledge death. That's direct. He doesn't even, that dial we were talking about, not the slightest ooch sideways, not for supreme happiness. And thus deny you live. I don't know if you can get much more clear. We can see this in the light of divine being. Let's just ask. Does the merest frown acknowledge death? And hear the answer in the divine light. Is that true? A slight discomfort in the light of divine being acknowledge death. This is smoking. Does even a little sigh of weariness acknowledge that death is? It is abdication of the creative power of divine being. Because we created that experience to experience it. The tiniest frown. Does the light know what a frown is? No, I don't know what that is. You think that death is of the body, yet it is but an idea irrelevant to what is seen as physical. Irrelevant. Is death of a body irrelevant to the light of divine being? A thought is in the mind. It can then be applied as the mind directs it, but its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. That's why we can't do this at the level of form. It has to be looked at as really. We can dance around it, extend it out, sit an opus on this. And that can be an expression of willingness to write it down at first as we're really seeing through these denials. We start with the light first, infinite light, to see that nothing changes this. Ideas leave the source. That's a direct seeing now. In the light of divine being, can an idea leave the source in our direct experience? The emphasis this course is placed on that idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. Is the truth that ideas leave not their source the reason we can heal? and hear the answer in the divine light. We can heal because ideas leave not their source. See the power in that. Because the body is an attempt to project outside of source. So it's all within the light. Everything's within the light. But if we don't acknowledge it and we go into the dream, it will seem to be appearances of other than ourselves. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. Its truth establishes you as one with God. Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. He's pretty absolute. Twitches, frowns, weariness, pain, suffering, death. All forms of attempt to kill ourselves, kill the Creator, who we're synonymous with. It is the belief conditions change, emotion alternate because of causes you cannot control. The desire for an experience, a cause we cannot control. Jesus, is there any desire below my level of awareness, a cause I cannot? Or an experience. The experience of cause and effect. The cause and effect lies outside. It's trying to toss out effect, to fractionate cause and effect, which are one in the divine light, or cause and effect the same. As soon as we put cause outside of ourselves, a cause of the world coming in, and then pretend that we can't control it. When we can, we can see the power of our mind. It's a miscreation. Causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change. It's this desired experience within consciousness to hide from the fact that we miscreated it. It is the fixed belief ideas can leave their source and take on qualities the source does not contain. See that the ego and this thought-based, we see that the light does not contain these. Does it contain thought? Is it a container for thought? Does it have like a little thought bucket somewhere? Becoming different from their own origin, apart from it in kind as well as distance, time, and form. So the projection actually is a creation of the appearance of distance. Yet when we look at the light, is the light any distance from us? So we bind ourselves into a dream of anything but light, the but light dream, trying to make an experience of ideas leaving their source. And then forgetting we made it, going, why do I feel separate? Because we desire the experience of feeling separate. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all that their source contains. In that, they can go far beyond themselves. But they cannot give birth to what was never given them. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so will they then give birth. And where they come from, there they will return. So there's an idea that ideas and thoughts go out and they're not part, they cannot arise in source. Yet if we look, where do thoughts go? Where do thoughts go? They come and go, all arising. But then can they be separate from the light in our direct experience? Any thought? They can't prove separation is here. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what it is its waking state. It cannot make a body nor abide within a body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source. Is the dream sourceless in the light of divine being? This is a deep one. It's without source. The unreal is without a source. For mind creates all things that are and cannot give them attributes it lacks. So it's trying to give the world attributes that are not of the Father. The only attribute of the light is divine perfection. Nor change its own eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical. Does the divine light make physical? It only makes like itself. It only expresses as itself, as light. It can't make physical objects. What seems to die is but the sign of a mind asleep. So all these twitches, and they become the signal now of sleep. Pain, signal of sleep. Suffering, signal of sleeping, of dreaming. They're the wake-up alarm. Time to look, time to, the use of time. Jesus says the most potent use of time. Recognition of light and ceasing to deny light. Really, honesty of God. Honesty and admission of divinity. That supreme happiness is ultimately all there is. That's our whole function. No other function on this earth other than to recognize divinity and express divine being, not subject to this world, the miscreation. The opposite of life can only be to another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not. Yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it is asleep. Is the infinite mind, the infinite light, this abstract? We can see, is the infinite light abstract? Is it opposite to a world? A seeming world? Can we find an opposite? Is the light here regardless if we're sleeping or awake? Dreaming a dream at night, is it still here? Daydreaming, is it still here? Denying the light, is it still here? God creates only mind awake, the only ultimate reality. He does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not. Therefore, it is impossible to share this world. See in this divine light that the world cannot be shared. Only divine being can only be expressed through us as divine beings. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly. Is the infinite light have the power to extend forever changelessly in our direct experiences, light beings? Yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. In the divine light, are we everywhere? This is Lucy, the last sentence in the movie Lucy. Where is she? She's everywhere. Are we limited by time and space as divine beings? Can time or space limit us? What seems to be opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it not and assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source. This is why pain and suffering are the signal to wake up. If we listen to the signal, if we refuse to look at the signal, then we'll stay asleep. If we have the desire to experience it, it will continue. It merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. Has the world ever occurred in divine light? Jesus is taking this all the way down the rabbit hole right here. No world. But is there fear when you see there's no world? Is that a problem in the light? Does the divine light go, oh my gosh, the world's not real, and doesn't totally is happiness concerned about the world whatsoever? No concern. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen has never occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. Or all events nowhere in the light of divine being. Are the changes that are the changing world, are they substanceless? All these changes, do they have substance to them in the divine light of being? No substance. You can really start to see, that's just the futility in the investment in thought-based ego. There's no purpose to it. Does the ego have any purpose? No. In the light of divine being, it has no sort of purpose whatsoever. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. Is awakening always here in the divine light of being? In our direct experience, it just is. Let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees and dreams the opposite to what he is? We will not ask for death in any form today. That's pretty direct. If you're feeling like death, if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling sad, you're asking for it. That is really, we will only ask for supreme happiness today. Nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. Has God set the thought of life eternal in the light of divine being? His holy home we strive to keep today as he established it and wills it be forever and ever. He is Lord of what we think today, oh Lord. That's supreme happiness when he's Lord of what we think. Asking him to be Lord. He is anyway. We're just ceasing to pretend like we can be the Lord of what we think. Lay that on the altar. I can put that up there, Jesus. And in his thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life and that we share with him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom he created in a unity of life that cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from decay. Can we ever leave this light, the source from which we came in our direct experience? We share one life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which he created perfect. As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life. So perfectly it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected. And the light which makes reflection possible. Are we the light in which reflection is possible? But it's merely a reflection. And as our minds are clear, we see the reflection of ourselves in the world is divine perfection. No vision now is needed, for the wakened mind is one that knows its source, itself, its holiness. This is a really great time to claim lesson 168. Your grace is given me, I claim it now. God speaks to us. Shall we not speak to him? In this light of divine being, we can hear that God speaks to us. Every question we've asked, he's answered in this circle, when we're willing to listen to it. Like, just open to cease the denials. When the only investment, what's the only thing that's asked for is supreme happiness. And see how valuable that is compared to anything that's ever been provided by this world. Amen.